For the past year, Jason Chubb and Steph Winstanley have been training for an ultra-endurance event. Their aim? To scale the highest peak in England and Wales 10 times within 24 hours. To succeed, each circuit can take no longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes, allowing minimal time for food, drink and rest. They will be pushed to their limits. What drives them towards this goal? Can this extraordinary ambition be realized? And if it can, at what cost?
When I look back at it now, having completed what we did, I didn't think it was going to be as brutal as that, and I think that's the only word I can say.
I was prepared for it to be tough, but there was a few things that happened that needed some overcoming, put it that way.
When I look back at when I agreed to do this, I was always doing, some form of exercise, whether it be running, swimming, on the bike. I'm on the bike quite often. And I thought I had a reasonable level of fitness, but knew for something like this, I'd have to up it dramatically.
So going for a run out, it's pretty cold and windy, it's 50-mile-an-hour winds, my feet are freezing. Had a good week of running, did 20 miles a couple of nights ago. And so this is just running on the old tired legs like Chubby tells me to. So sort of looking forward to it, even though it looks horrible outside. And taking little Bert with me, so hopefully we'll have a nice little run together. Planning for about 10, 13, something like that, see how I feel. And here he is, ready to go.
I think I'd just come back from a long run, and the next thing, the dog makes a horrendous sound. I won't try and repeat it, but it literally sounded like an old man sort of coughing his guts up. And I thought, for goodness sake, Rolo, just keep quiet. That's the dog coughing. You all right, mate? You all right? Yeah, good ride on Saturday with Steph, really good. 105 miles in the bank. Steph's coming on well. If it was a ride in July, be no problem at all, or a triathlon even, but 24 hours running, that's no different. It's going to have to get used to.
Chubby texted me, do you want to do this event? And he sent me the link, and I just immediately said yes, and didn't really look at it, didn't really absorb it. It just looked exciting, 24-hour event running up and down Snowdon. I didn't really think about it, but because Chubby was saying, let's do it, he wanted to do something a little bit extra, and I thought, well, I'll do it with him, it'll be all right, why not?
He was enthused from the outset. I know he said initially, when we spoke previously, he said, I didn't really take it on board, but he sounded really enthused. I thought, we're doing it then.
We spoke about it and it started sinking in, thinking, what have I agreed to? We already agreed our name that night, Rollo Stan, because of our dogs, Rollo and Stan, our old dog. So we'd signed up, paying for it. I was already in, but I didn't really think about it.
My name's Tim Lloyd. I'm the co-owner and founder of Always Aim High Events Limited. We're the organisers of the Snowdon 24 Endurance Mountain Race. First time it's ever happened this year in 2022. The idea came from a colleague, Kenny, Nigel Kendrick. We discussed it and we thought, yeah, let's go for it. So we're a local event business based here in North Wales, just a few miles down the road. We've actually founded here in Llanberis. This is my home village, so for me it's great to be here and working here. We basically we set up to showcase Wales essentially to people from outside of Wales by putting on sporting events and attracting the sporting community. So we organise triathlons, we do running races, cycle races and swim events. Of course the Snowdon 24 being one of those events that we do. It's we've been in existence now for 12 years and it's really sort of captured the imagination. So we organise events that feel a little bit different to the traditional British event, should we say. A bit more of a carnival, a festival atmosphere to what we do.
Me being me, I remember looking at the website and there was different, acknowledgements for, say, one ascent and descent, 2, 3, 4.
To give people their own personal challenges, we've set a number of different sort of benchmarks. The first is 3 ascents in the 24 hours. We call that our Snowdon Challenge. Snowdon being the highest mountain in England and Wales. The second is 5 ascents, which is the equivalent of climbing Mont Blanc, which is the highest mountain in Europe. So 5 times up and down in 24 hours. The third challenge is our Kilimanjaro Challenge, which is 7 times up and down. And that, of course, is the highest mountain in Africa. And then, of course, the big one is 10 times, which is the equivalent of climbing Everest. So that's the Everest Challenge. And that'll be the one, that very few people will achieve. It's not easy to get up and down Snowdon 10 times in 24 hours. And it'll be interesting to see who actually can do it.
So I've automatically looked at, well, what's the most you can do? 10, right, we're doing that. And I hadn't even thought any more about it. 10, there's nothing else is going to be good enough. We're going for that. And it was only afterwards when I started looking into it, I thought, actually, that's going to be over 90 miles. Yeah, we need to be serious about this, which I was anyway. But, it was a little bit of a, we really, really need to take this seriously to be able to achieve that.
How I see it, we're a team, but I'm not going to hold Chubby back. He's the one that's going to be, that when we talk about as a team, we want to try and achieve 10. So I'm hoping we do the 10 between us. So I do 5, he does 5, but Chubby's he's going to be the one that goes on and longer. And I think for me, in my position, I'm quite happy for him to carry on doing that because I think he's got that ability and I haven't. But we'll go as long as we can together until such time that one of us drops out, and that one of us will probably be me.
When I was at school, I was never massively sporty at all. I used to like watching sport on television, like cricket. My favourite programme when I was younger was The Superstars, which was a thing back in the 80s. It used to bring athletes from all different realms of sport together, and they used to compete against each other in various events, everything from gym tests to canoeing, shooting sometimes, cycling, you name it. That was really influential on me at a young age. That was my favourite programme by far. That got me involved in or interested in, I suppose, in that sort of competitive sporting sort of environment. I didn't really start getting involved in competitive sport until probably in my 40s.
I'm not a fell runner. I'm not, I don't run on the mountains. I've not been doing this in any sort of semi-professional way or anything. I'm just a guy that runs around here. I've never run anything more than 30 miles. The 30 is the furthest I've gone. If I were doing it on my own, I do think it'd be quite easy to give up. I think it'd be easy to go, right, that's enough now. I've done 3, I've done 4, I'm calling it a day. But when you've got someone that you don't want to let down, someone that you look up to, someone that you want to, actually run with, it's going to push me harder. Me training with Steve down the road, there's been days I've thought, can't I get out of bed? I don't want to go. I'm tired. It's cold. It's been raining. But I know he's going to be there at 5:30 every morning, so it makes me go. So doing this sort of event with Chubby, it's pushing me to go beyond my limits massively. Running up and down a mountain is exciting. There's danger. Something bad could happen. One of us could go over, but that doesn't scare me.
The Glastonbury Sportif that we did back in September, I think it was, right at the early stages of when we had Snowdon, on our minds, was good fun.
I felt like that was up until getting to Cheddar Gorge. It was fairly comfortable because I'm okay at riding. I'm all right, but even then, we're chatting away, and I was thinking then, hanging onto the back of Chubby's wheel, trying to stick with him. I'm not going to be able to do this Snowdon thing. Simple as that, because whilst we were training and chatting, we were still working quite hard on that bike ride. But it was a good thing to go and do together, to discuss the plan, discuss what we're going to try and achieve, and to get 100 miles in, which isn't to be sniffed at. It's a hard thing to go and do on a bike ride on quite a hilly course, if you like.
It's in my and Steph's really comfort zone, and I can probably do that every day of the week potentially, and it's not been too much of a challenge. But it was a good way of bonding together and doing an endurance event that brings us all together, gives us a focus, and it gains fitness. And a lot of my fitness plans were around heavy cycling, because I know that the more running you do, especially as you get older, the more likely you are to potentially get injured.
The first time it really dawned on me as to what I need to do to succeed in this run was the Pen y Fan attempts, because that put me through a lot of pain. That
we started off running, and power walking is almost virtually as quick when it gets really steep. So we'll experiment a little bit this time, maybe change our pace a little bit. But to be honest, I think we sort of averaged about a 13-minute mile up and down.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much where we want to be, really, I think. So we'll experiment a little bit, but we've got to be careful. We don't want to sort of blow our knees out too soon, because we're going to do that 4, 5, 6, whatever.
We're going to try. We're going to try and do a few, aren't we?
There's only so many sort of hills you can run before you need to get some proper sort of mountain-esque sort of training sessions in. And so that was always on the cards to go to Pen y Fan. I think we got a lot out of it. I think Steph got a lot out of it. I think it was an eye-opener for him.
I'd say the last third is the most sort of similar bit to Snowdon, but that is the only bit of it. The rest of it's just fairly straightforward, isn't it? It's a nice little path.
Yeah.
But we had a laugh on the way up, didn't we?
We did.
There was a bit of bend over, sort of like, oh, it's hurting, but it didn't last long. 15 minutes of a bit of pain at the last bit, that was it.
even though I thought I was in okay shape, I actually, looking back on it, think I wasn't. And when we were doing the training for that, I remember going up the first one thinking, this is all right. The second one, I thought, that's okay, not too bad. The third one, it really started to bite, and then it became a real sort of, I had to dig deep on that, and I remember it being 50, 60 mile an hour winds at the top, and it got a little bit. I'm going to say it was exciting. I quite like that. I quite like the danger of it, but it was a little bit. It was a little bit scary. There was points where it was almost like a whiteout. You couldn't see where you were properly running at the top, and there was just me and Chubby up there.
Can't see anything. That's hard.
You all right, mate?
No, yeah. Now I think about every step of the minute, it's quite hard.
Horrendous 50 mile an hour winds on the top where you can barely stand up. I thought, well, it can't be any worse than this, which is a good thing, really, because then obviously you hope that that's not going to be the case on the day of the event. Yeah, I was worried, obviously concerned, because he was going through some difficulties.
That felt hard. That felt like, I know he was dead easy with Chubby going over. He looks like he's a mountain goat, but every step I thought, I feel like I could go over it. But when we got up the sort of flat bits and down hills, I recovered very quickly. I felt strong, but that was quite a moment. I thought, it could end here. It really felt like it could end here, but I think it could go like that.
We had to do that. You've got to go into those sort of dark, sort of deep areas and you're on a mountain, it's a dangerous place to be. So I think it was to perhaps test our mettle a bit, and those conditions that it threw at us, I think, helped.
There will be people who are coming here with with that one ambition to achieve 10 ascents and descents of Snowdon in the 24 hours. And, I think they mustn't underestimate what that challenge is going to be.
When we entered the challenge, we set out to achieve what we thought. My feeling was it was never going to be really achievable, but it was to do 10 ascents and descents in 24 hours.
Not only from a physical sense, but I think more so from a psychological sort of sense, because, when it gets painful and going up and down Snowdon, and probably in particular running down Snowdon, 10 times is going to be absolutely excruciating, physically and mentally.
Snowdon was always on my brain, always. Whether it's on the turbo, going out for a run, doing steps, even strength and conditioning and stuff like that. It was always on my mind, daily.
The first ascent's going to be enjoyable. Probably it'll seem fairly easy, but as the ascents go on, they're going to get more and more difficult each time.
You're looking online for stuff about it, like the mountain, the elevation, and you stumble across things, don't you? And I saw the chap called Kenny Stewart had run up and down it at ridiculous speed, you know, like 10 miles in an hour. And that's quick on flat, really quick on flat. But it's incredible that someone's held that record for that long.
Hello, my name's Kenny Stewart, former fell runner, marathon runner, better known overall as being the first male to win a British Championship in fell running 3 times. I also went on to win the official World Trophy event in Italy in 1985, and then I went on to the roads and pursued a career as a marathon runner. Ran 2:11 marathon in Houston, Texas in 1989, ran for Great Britain on the roads, ran for England at cross country, county champion 7 times, that's the Cumbria County Championships. Still hold the record actually for the Snowdon race, the Skiddaw race, which is in Keswick, a local race for me. I still have the Ben Nevis race record, the Ennerdale race record. Didn't always go to plan, but that's a brief sort of history of where I came from.
We knew we wanted to go to Snowdon to do a recce.
This is me.
This is Steph.
There's Steffi boy. And we're about to do our first recce of the mountain. We did 3, and all of them were within the time to be able to turn around to do what we planned to do.
The intention is to do at least 3 laps today, just to get an idea of pacing and nutrition. That's the big game. Yes. That's what we're up to.
It was brilliant. It was well worth it in terms of the pacing and understanding what I think is achievable for me. It was clear to me I've got a good level of fitness, but me and Chubby, there are differences. He is far more consistent and he's stronger, and we've got a big challenge ahead of us.
I'm genuinely interested to see how people cope with that, and just the repetition of it. It's like, having to do it again and again and again and again is going to be quite demoralising, especially through the night, in the dark. Although you add all those extra elements, and if the weather is unkind, who knows what might happen. We'll have to wait and see.
I don't like failure. I wanted to give it the best shot, and the only way I can do that is to try and sort of cover all bases by doing what needs to be done for it.
Well, I've actually only done the Snowdon race twice. I went down in 1984, and that's where I actually met my wife, Pauline. That's where we got together at. Pauline, of course, won the ladies' race that year. Come the following year, 1985, it was perhaps a time in my running career where I just about got to the peak of everything I wanted to do. I felt I could just about beat anybody on the go at the time, in Europe as well. I broke the record by quite a way in 1985. The conditions were ideal, absolutely brilliant. Slight headwind going up, which was behind you, which helped, and also led at the top by a bloke who just about burst everybody's guts out. A chap called Robin Bryson, former World Cup runner himself. It was a bit like being paced to the top. I let him go by about 11 seconds because I knew I was just about on the edge as well. But passed him quite easily coming down, and the Italian challenge never really materialised. I'd got so much of a good lead that I didn't go for records. I never did. But it just happened that the way I ran that day and the way I was pushed, I broke the record by quite a way.
I think it was about the 3rd year at school. I remember looking out the window thinking, why am I sat in this classroom when I could be out running?
And I got picked for the regional cross-country, sort of championships if you like, and I came, I think, last. I just didn't perform. I ran there. It was on Beverley Westwood sort of race course. Mum and Dad came to support me. I remember getting down the first hill and then up the second one. It was just mud, and all the proper kid runners had spikes on, and I was just clambering up it, and then I lost it. I went into the red, and I was just dragging myself round, and there was I'm pretty sure I finished either last or second to last. Got in the car and went home. But I still kept running for the school, in the school. I was gutted, but it's the way it is, isn't it? And I guess really, that's half the reason why when I go to events, I've done triathlons with Chubby, I've done some running events on my own, and I build it up to be something bigger than what it is. And it probably is because of what happened at school. And I get nervous, I get really nervous. We did a Blenheim, I think it was a half marathon. I remember getting to the start line, physically feeling sick. And there was no reason why, it's just a run. I have to play this one down, I can't focus on it, otherwise it will damage me a little bit, and I just need to block it all out and do my best.
Particularly as a kid, when I was running in local fell races, I mean, I got so nervous I could barely run at one stage. It was horrible feeling. You know what I'm talking about. And gradually, as time moves on, you come to manage it. It's not always easy, but you've got to keep yourself focused before the race and think about anything but the race. And certainly starting to warm up an hour before and jogging about, talking to people even. Some people before a race wouldn't even talk, you know, they're so nervous.
The last race I won was in my 50s, and that was a duathlon involving fell running and what have you. I was really pleased to do that because I finally felt, yeah, anything else other than the win, I wouldn't have really been happy. That's not to say I shouldn't have been happy, but it's just the way I'm wired up, you know, the way I am, you know. I'm just never happy. Quite a few times over the years when I've done a race and I've finished second, third, fourth, or whatever in the top 10. Oh, you must be happy with that. No, not happy with that at all. At all. But that's just the way it is. So it's certainly not an arrogant thing. It's just I need to get the best out of myself, and you know, I suppose I put pressure on myself to be able to do it. You know,
no matter how hard you train, you know, you probably can't properly prepare for something like this.
I think it's one hell of a task from an endurance point of view, because you're not doing these distances just on the road or on the flat. The differential between running up and down there each time, going up and then having to come down, it's going to have a hell of an impact physically on the bodies. So it'll be very interesting to see what actually develops, and good luck to them.
This is a battle against the elements and yourself for 24 hours, so the nerves will be there for a bit, but then it's a case of right into the process.
Tired.
You don't always wake up thinking, yeah, we're swimming. 5:45 in the morning, whatever it is. Sometimes you think, yeah, we're swimming.
Not feeling love for it this morning, I have to say. I'm sure it'll be all right in a minute once I've got going. But feeling tired this morning. Ran home last night in the cold, which was fine.
Because I think some people think, yeah, Chubby's in it, he's on it, he's doing it, and it's like, you know, you still feel knackered sometimes, and sometimes you think, oh, I just don't know, you know, if I want to do it today. I always do it.
The hard miles are done now.
Because the minute you don't do it, then mentally, that for me, it would have you know, the minute you sort of don't do a session, or the minute you give up on a session on an interval or something like that, then that's a weakness, and that can reoccur. So as long as it never occurs, then you're keeping the wolf from the door.
When you're training hard, and there's, you know, like I look up to Chubby and how he goes about his training, and thinking I really need to sort of push myself to the maximum to try and get that 10. I overdid it, injured myself, had to have maybe 4 or 5 weeks off running and change that to swimming and cycling. And I think that's what separates people. There's some people that will, it's, you know, train and just do a bit, but then they'll suffer. And I didn't want to suffer badly. I wanted to really, really prep myself the best way I could, which I did, but I still suffered. morning comes, you know, we're lying in bed. You never sleep well before an event, but I felt all right, to be honest with you.
So I went into him, and he's there lying on a bed with his eyes closed and whatever, and he obviously sensed I was there, and he just looked at me.
Chubby walks in and he says,
"Yeah, it's time," which we thought was quite amusing at the time.
And I just couldn't wait to get there. I was like, brilliant. And it was just, that's exactly how it happened. Walked downstairs, we're off. And then it all just started happening. You know, we get there, ridiculously hot. You know, probably better that it was hot than it was, if it was raining and snow or thunder, it would have been awful. But it worried me, the heat. I'm sure everyone there was worried about it, because you needed to get out of that sun. And the sooner the event started for me, the better, because then we're on.
And then it's just a case of, okay, we've got half an hour, and I know from previous experience in doing other events that time just absolutely flies by. Let's get warmed up. All the kit was there, you know, the sun was shining a lot, and we managed to sort of get there in one piece for the start.
I knew that I couldn't live with Chubby's pace, so I had to do my own thing. It's a hard thing to do when you're together. We wanted to go together, but I had to keep away from him. And I could see him in front of me for a long time, but if you think you're going too fast, you're going too fast. 24 hours is a long time. I remember it was creeping up, just slow down, Steph, slow down. And I could see him. He never really got that far ahead of me on the first one, but that was because there were so many people on there. But I'm pleased I did my race. It was on my terms, and I didn't get sucked into someone else's race, because that's when it goes wrong.
The first lap, it went according to plan for me. Everything was good. The pacing was good, and felt good. Nutrition right. I got back and I thought, yeah, that's on target. My thinking was, well, I'm not stopping for too long. If I can build up a buffer, I'm going to build up a buffer. And I think, I didn't look at the timings, but I would imagine I wasn't back for much more than 5 minutes. We're off again, which you know, and I felt good, and I felt that was the right thing to do.
You want to have a rhythm, you want to have a sort of a nice stride, if you like, but you couldn't do it. It was so broken and bitty because there was so many people there. But again, it's the same for everyone. You just got to get on with it. There'll be less and less as the day goes on, and I couldn't wait to get into the night, because it was just going to be a few of us in the competition going up and down. When I get to the summit on the first one, it's busy, and I'm making my way down. I just reined it in, nice and steady coming down. Had the poles, you know, to sort of, there's some steep parts in it where it does help to prevent you from going over. But I would say about 3/4 of the way down, I just felt uncomfortable. I had the poles in my hand, and I'd done lots of training with the poles. They're brilliant, but it just didn't feel natural, and I wanted to get rid of them. So I put the poles in my right hand. Within a minute or two, I was gone over straight away.
Yeah, I'll be fine, mate. Thank you. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, thank you for stopping, though. It'll be nasty, but it'll go away.
I ended up tripping on something, you know. The first one was a nasty fall. You know, I went straight over mainly onto my right side. Really, really hurt my right knee, grazed it badly. My hand was straight on the floor, and I think I had a couple of little stones, and that was bleeding a bit. It was that type of fall that you have when you're like 10 years old, and you know, you've grazed all of your leg, and it kills, and you come in and your mum puts like TCP on it. It stung. It was horrible, and I was like, that's all right, just got to get on with it. But it knocked the wind out of me, and I'm looking at my hand thinking, oh God, that hurts, you know, and the blood's on the pole, and I'm like, oh, just got to carry on. And probably less than 5 minutes or something later, I've gone again.
Yeah, I'll be fine, thank you.
And that was that. I'd say that, you know, it shook me right up because I went head over heels. You know, I felt bouncing off my backpack. I'd hit my shoulder, my ankle, back on the knee, and my left knee, I'd banged it really like an impact injury on the floor, and that shook me up. I realised then that I think my event's going to be over here. My ankle was killing. I'd had 2 bad falls. Things weren't going particularly well then, and I was sort of hobbling back. I was devastated because everything was painful, and having to run to keep the pressure off my right ankle, but I couldn't really bend my left knee. I just didn't want to draw any attention to it. I just wanted to get on with it. I didn't want anyone to stop me and take me away and say, oh, let's look at this. I just wanted to deal with it myself. And I remember seeing Liv at the sort of start line or that area. And I just focused on Liv and then went into the little tent area. And I was thinking, that's it, my event's over. I've trained really hard for this and I'm done. And I remember saying something like, I've just got to get on with it, and cleared my blood off me, banged some Vaseline on it to stop it bleeding, turned it around quickly. I put a towel on my head for a minute or so just to sort of get all the sweat off me, compose myself, got my kit on, went straight back out. It was a very quick turnaround that, but it shook me up. That second fall was it was scary.
Lap 2 was, I think I'd only been going for probably half a mile or so, and I started to feel the top of my right calf. I'd suffered a minor calf strain a month before, literally the last training session when I was out in the States. Of course, so when it went, I thought, flipping now I'm struggling here, because if I couldn't put any pressure on it, so running uphill was instantly gone.
I got through the first gate and then I had to sit down, take my shoe off. It was around there somewhere because my ankle was hurting so much, and I'd not looked at that. And I thought, what have I actually done to it? And because I couldn't run on it, I was trying to keep the pressure off it. So I took my trainer off and I had like a cut and a graze on the outer part of the ankle, but something was really hurting at the front. But put the trainer back on and just thought, we'll just walk up, see how it goes.
So I thought to myself, okay, power walking is still good. I can still do that. It's not hurting with the walking. I'm just going to have to walk it, and then hope that when I get to the top and turn round, I can tentatively see, because obviously the pressure won't be the same on the calf coming downhill. See if I can jog back down.
I text Liv saying something like, I think my ankle really hurts. My left knee, I can hardly bend it. I'm going to struggle to do this, you know, and I'm just going to walk up and down until I'm empty. But I think the last line was, I'm devastated, because I genuinely thought, it's done, it's gone. How can I go, you know, I'm 2 hours into it or something, 2.5 hours into it, how am I going to do another 20 odd hours like this?
Got to the top, turned round, tentatively started to put a little bit of movement on it, and it held up. I thought, okay, we're walking up and we're running back. Not too bad. The pace obviously had slowed, 30 minutes difference basically, but at the time I was so happy that I could run down, because I literally thought, flipping out, 14 months of training and I'm going to do one lap and that's it.
On the third ascent on a previous training session, I remember going up there and then thinking, this is too hard, and walking back down, and 10 metres later it's like, just have a word with yourself, turn around, get back up there. And I did. So I forced myself to do something that I didn't really want to do and I was uncomfortable. And so when in that moment of texting Liv saying I'm devastated, it was like, well, you've been here before, not as bad as this, but you probably wanted to give up, but just get up there.
Because I had no access to ice at Snowdon. When it happened in America, it stiffened up and I was literally limping. So that was a bonus that I was still able to, to compete. Straight away it changed the goal. I came back in. It would have been a similar sort of turnaround. It may have been 10 minutes, I think, at the turnaround. Again, I didn't want to sit down. I didn't want to I was conscious of, rightly or wrongly, I didn't want to stiffen up at all. I wanted to keep the legs sort of working. So I got off again on the third lap and it was much the same as the second lap.
It felt like a long time going up on that second one. It just took me ages. But when the paracetamol kicked in, the pain in the ankle had gone. I couldn't really bend my left knee, and that happened for the rest of the event, really. I was struggling with that, but I thought I can run again. I slowly came down, and then I think I just put it to the back of my mind, and then rolled on to number 3, which I think, from memory, I think that was a bit quicker. That was a good effort, that. And I think the adrenaline of knowing I'm back in the game here, I've got over this, pushed me to run quick on 3, but I went too quick because I was pretty excited again. I was like, from going from it's over, it's done, I'm finished, I'm devastated, I've done a year's worth of training and it's gone in the blink of an eye, 2 falls, to I'm back again, and I felt really strong.
We're all absolutely buzzing, you know. It's brilliant that it's actually underway, the Snowdon 24, the first time we've ever conducted a Snowdon 24 challenge, so it really is a great feeling for us. We've got runners, they'll be coming in any minute now, the next runners will be coming in. We had 184 over the start line, some of those will be teams, quite a few of those will be teams. Which means that we've probably got, probably 300-400 runners in total taking part this year. Quite a few solo runners, which is absolutely nuts, really, isn't it? When you think about, those guys just going to go time and time again up and down Snowdon. Absolutely beautiful day, so they can have a great experience in terms of the views and the conditions. However, it does make it tough out there when it's as hot as it is. It's going to be dry. The hydration is going to be key. Anyone that doesn't look after themselves properly on hydration, they're going to suffer later on. So it'll be interesting to see how things unfold. But we anticipate to see quite a high dropout rate, I'd say. Maybe people taking longer breaks than they had sort of planned for because it's so hot. So they'll need to come in and they will need to refuel. Here we go, our next runner's coming in now. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. We want as many people to make the finish line as possible.
And it would have been a similar sort of time, I think, the third lap. Power walking up. Still tried a couple of times to see if I could put weight on it running, but couldn't. I didn't feel like I was lacking energy at all on that one. The Tailwind nutrition plan was working okay, taking regular sips. I'd sort of reformulated my plans as to how the event was going to run from that point.
I felt strong and I thought, well, I'm back into my rhythm. I remember getting near the top actually thinking I was energised. I felt like the training I'd been doing with Steve was all coming into play. I felt this is normal. This is how I run back at home. I'm in a good spot, and I felt good. So it was getting up that final sort of third, if you like, and I remember thinking I'm going to do well here. I'm all right. And when I turned round at the top, having had that fall and thinking I was running too slow, and maybe that was a factor. I was running down quick. I was going back to how I used to run, being a bit careful because I know I've got ages to carry on till the event's over. But I felt like this is back to how I run again.
Around the top of lap 3, I'm thinking when I get to the bottom, I don't want Coke. I just want cold sparkling water, which to many's amusement, I think, and it became. I need to make sure there's cold sparkling water at the bottom. It started to obsess me. And I think at one point I got on the phone to try and phone back to base. I couldn't get any signal or whatever it was. No one was picking up. I was thinking, damn, I'm not going to have cold sparkling water. That's going to ruin things.
Probably pushing myself a bit too quick, but the third one felt like my best run. I've really enjoyed it. And the things that were in my mind was what Steve was saying to me, like, this is what you've got to enjoy. And I thought, yeah, that's it, because it's just amazing. It's an amazing place to be.
We got that sorted, and when I got down there, that was nice. That was refreshing to have. Loaded up the Tailwind, all pre-made the night before, and we're off on lap 4.
I remember going up at number 4, and I'd stayed with this lad for a bit. To be honest with you, I did most of it on my own, and I quite liked that. But I had a chat to this kiddie, and he looked strong. He was doing well, and so we probably stayed with each other for 10 minutes, and he was off, he was gone, but I was impressed watching him go, but I could feel the fatigue coming out.
Yeah, lap 4, I started quite soon into it, started to feel quite sick, nauseous, to the point where I couldn't bring myself to drink the pre-made Tailwind up anymore. I knew I was going to be sick.
It was a bit of a struggle getting up on number 4, but I was still moving forward, and that's what counts. And I saw Chubby, so he was obviously doing better than me. He was probably one ahead of whatever it was.
I was conscious that the pace it was so slow. It was a case of, I'm really struggling here, really struggling. Something needs to happen, needs to change.
I'd not really seen much of him on the event. We were passing, and every time I passed him, he looked all right. He was either with someone or he was coming down. He looked good. But this one, I don't think I've ever seen him in that situation, his head sort of came into my shoulder because I said, let's go and have a chat near this rock, and he looked unsteady. He looked like he was done.
He was doing brilliantly because I know he'd fallen, and so he was having to overcome those issues. I think I might have swayed a couple of times when I was talking. I think he was genuinely shocked. I don't think he'd seen me like that before.
And all the marshals were good as gold, making sure we're all right, checking in with everyone, and they would have had an ear out for him, no doubt. And I heard his number come up on one of the radios saying 2017. I thought, what's happened to him? Is he? This was prior to me seeing him. Sorry. Is he all right? Why are they calling his number out? What's gone on? And I was thinking, I hope I see him soon. And when I did see him, I realised why, because he was in a mess. I said to him, just get off the mountain safe, get down there. I'll see you at the bottom, and we'll do one more together.
All that was on my mind was just getting back and eating and getting on with it.
We'd agreed, wait for me at the bottom. I'll knock this one off, and then we'll go up together, and that'll be our end, if you like, because there was no way he was coming back up.
I sort of dined out on a sandwich and some crisps, just some salty stuff, which, and in hindsight, I maybe should have done that. I should have spent a bit more time after each lap maybe to do that. I don't know. It's difficult because it was working fine up until that point.
I get to the top and I've come down as quick as I could. And I had in my mind, I remember coming down, there was some other lads saying, are you going to go back out? And I was like, I don't really want to, but yeah, I'm going to go back out. But I might have to give myself a couple of hours. And I was thinking, well, I'll see Chubby, I'll have a bit of a break, we'll have a chat, and then we'll get up.
The amount of training that you do, it's very rarely you'll be going over 30, 40 miles anyway. So these things probably only ever rear their heads at those sort of, ridiculous distances. And so on my mind, it was just a case of, I've got to overcome this, somehow, and keep going. And
then when I come down, he's only there, kit on, looking like, it was number one. He'd come back from the dead. I was like, what? How has he done that?
Steph, you're back.
He looked at me, and because we'd agreed this plan, he's like, it showed you on the mountain, I can't believe you're here.
Yeah, I didn't realise. Yeah, we just looked, you were miles back up there. I didn't realise you were right back here. You just crack on, mate. All right, you sure?
And I was like, right, do you feel good? And he's like, yeah. I said, right, don't hang around, just go. Because I don't want to hinder his race. I don't want him to wait for me. And if it was two different people. He went from literally gone to, he looks fresh as a daisy.
I was back in the game then. I was like a new man.
And then he was gone. And I was pleased for him. I was chuffed to bits, actually, because I know that he would have been devastated, feeling that rough, thinking his event's over, because I'm sure he would have done, and he wouldn't have been happy with that. So I was pleased that he'd gone. I would love to have gone back up with him, but it doesn't matter. It is what it is. And so I think that was my longest break then. I had about half an hour, a coffee, a bit of food. I think I knew then that was going to be my last one.
Up on the hill, we've got marshals and we've got our mountain leaders as well. So that's something I think we do a bit differently to some other companies. We have actual mountain leaders on the mountain, and we've got 6 or 7 of them up there tonight, all through the night as well at various checkpoints. So we're checking with them through the night, and they've got really good expertise in terms of first aid and navigation and just generally being out in the darkness as well as in the daylight. So they're really important to us. So they've obviously got a vested interest between them about being in the mountains. But a lot of our marshals are people who compete in our events, or just people who enjoy the sport and the mountains and being out there. I think a lot of people are just stopped because they're tired, or they've done what they set out to do. This is the first time we've ran it, so it's gone really well. I think people hopefully would be keen to come back, and one of the things we were trying to do with the awards, with the 3, 5, 7, 10, was that people are hopefully going to come back next year and try and do one better. So yeah, if it keeps going the way it is, then I think it could become a real part of the calendar for a lot of people. And I know it's not just about the endurance part of it. I think the race means a lot to a lot of people for lots of other reasons as well.
After seeing Chubby go away on his, say, 5th one or whatever it was, I was on the 4th, and I thought, I need a break now. I don't actually think I had much of on all of the ones I'd done, I'd not stopped long for any of them. And I was planning on maybe having a half an hour break, but I just didn't bother. That was probably my undoing. I should have waited and stayed a bit longer and rested and probably, eaten more food, but nevertheless.
I changed the trainers for lap 5. I wanted to give them a go. They felt great, and as I say, the sandwich and the other stuff I had brought me back really completely. I still couldn't run going uphill, obviously. In hindsight, maybe I should have had another sandwich with me, because the energy probably started to sap towards the top of that lap. Then I only had water. Probably should have had something else. I mean, I had obviously the bars with me, but that was all sweet again. I didn't want sweet, and I didn't want to be carrying nuts and stuff like that. So because of my poles, and it just became difficult. I was just on a mission to just keep moving.
Everything was hurting. Everything was so painful, but you're just going again, aren't you? I remember going up there slowly, not intentionally. I just had no choice in it. I just had to just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
My initial plan of 10, I was now thinking, once I couldn't run, 9's going to be difficult. 8 will be easily achievable, no problem. But that was prior to feeling at death's door ill on lap 4. That's the world fell apart then for 3 or 4 hours.
When I got to the top, I took myself to one side, just got on this rock, hands behind my head, just lying down watching the sun rise, because I ain't never going to get that again. Never, and you're in a race, you want to do well, but exactly what Steve was saying, you've got to enjoy things like that, and I'll never forget that. It was a bit like the Champs-Élysées in the cycling world. Your last, it's the celebration, if you like, and I was so chuffed. I'd experienced everything I wanted to experience. I didn't beat myself up about it, and I came down with a big smile on my face thinking, brilliant, well done. I text Liv to say, this is it, I'm coming down, and that's going to be it. So it was like 4:15 in the morning, something, she's waiting. It was an amazing feeling to cross the line thinking, it's done.
It was never in my mind to stop at all. I was going to keep going. At that point, I was thinking I can still get 2 more in. Lap 6, very, very early into it, barely onto the path really, uphill. And I started to feel the top of my other calf started to become painful, right behind my left knee, to the point where every step, for the whole mountain up and down was painful. To be able to get 2 more in now is going to be hard, because even if I get in with 2.5 hours, the pace has dropped off so much because I can't run up. I'm now struggling to run back as well. The Devil's Staircase and the bit under the railway, when you go up that horrendous steep bit, that was awful. I think I knew coming down number 6. I knew, because I was in so much difficulty walking, I knew that the 6 was going to be the last one. I could have started 7 for sure, but I wouldn't have finished it. So that was very, very very frustrating. Very frustrating. I was disappointed, if I'm honest. Very disappointed. But I was happy it was over, because it was a lot of pain that last lap. But I was disappointed. It could have been worse. It could have been better. It could have been a lot worse. On that second lap, I was thinking, this could be the end here. I could be doing 1 lap. If you look at it from that point of view, you've got to be happy. But as we've discussed before, my initial thought is, I've failed. I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve, which is ridiculous in a way, but that's my mental health, or ill health, should we say. And I need to sort of overcome that. But it was a fantastic weekend, really good.
When I saw him coming down the finish line, I sort of realised then he ain't coming back out. He looked spent. I've never seen him drained like that before, but I was relieved he was back in one piece. He came over the finish line and he was struggling to hold himself up. He'd given it everything, and he was unwell before that. He had COVID a week before that, but batted it off. To do 60 miles, not an ultra runner, incredible effort. What an athlete. It's
a fantastic memory to have. We had it on as I said before, I had it on the radar for like 14 months. Doing it with a mate is it's always better than doing it on your own, because I get satisfaction from seeing Steph achieve goals, and he had to overcome a hell of a lot. And that started on the recce when we went and did the recce 2 months before. He had issues on that 3rd lap. He started to walk back and he overcome it and thought, no, I'm doing it. And that, without a shadow of a doubt, enabled him to do what he did on the event, by overcoming the adversity to be able to carry on. And so I get more pleasure out of seeing him do well than me, really.
learned a lot from it. I know where I can improve. I know what I need to do to train smarter to try and get better than 5. That initial feeling of no chance has now changed to I can't wait to get back. I'm not disappointed. Absolutely so chuffed and so proud of myself. But there's definitely more in me. So when we set out to do 10, some people will say it's impossible. I think there's one special person out there that can do that. There always is, but we just haven't seen them yet. But there's got to be someone that can do that, and that's my belief. It would be someone, you know, really extra special to do that, but there's got to be someone there.
And it's like you said right at the very beginning, one day we won't be able to do it, and that might come sooner than we think. But at the moment, I think we both still think that there might be unfinished business there.